As a result of what's happened this year, I mean, we've had this US election, and today we saw the Prime Minister, Scott Morrison, give Joe Biden a call, or I presume he gave the call to Joe, but anyway, we don't really know. But anyway, they had a conversation. They discussed coronavirus, climate change and recovering the economy. But some are questioning whether the call itself was a bit too premature. Now, here's the Prime Minister discussing what went on.
Well, Mr President-elect, congratulations, and also the Vice President-elect Kamala Harris on your election. There's no question about the robustness of the US democracy, something that none of us ever lose faith in, and I'm sure in your long experience you've always had a great faith in that as well. And here in Australia, we very much look forward to working with you.
Now, Bronwyn, I don't want to be too tough on the PM, right? But Joe Biden isn't the president-elect, and Kamala Harris isn't the vice president-elect. There is still a disputed or an election going on, and it won't be determined until the 14th of February. Was the PM right to give him a call and address him in such a manner?
Personally, I think he should have waited until certification, which is the word that Biden is using himself. I think that it's not a foregone conclusion. There is still a possibility that Trump can come through. It might be slight, but it's still there. And there are many irregularities that need to be invested. So I think it is premature. But I think the really tragic thing is if Biden does win, the two most powerful men in the world will be Putin and Xi.
Well, that's true. It does raise concerns that America might lose a bit of its dominance and its protector role, I guess, for Australia. Rex, you've had a keen interest in international affairs, and you know how much we rely on America for defence capacity. Do you see this call as just a positive outreach for the government, or do you think it was premature? And how do you see the US heading in the event of a Biden presidency?
Look, sorry, Corey, you're not going to like this, but Joe Biden has won the election, and world leaders have called him.
Come and see me next week.
And world leaders have called him. It was appropriate for the Prime Minister to give him a call. I do think it was a lost opportunity, however. The conversation was pretty light. America has been a great ally of Australia, and we've helped each other from time to time. And right now, we've got 250,000 people that have died in the United States from COVID. We've got 10 million people that have been infected. We should have used this opportunity to reach out and say, we've done pretty well here in Australia and we'd like to help. We'd like to give you some help. It might be modest, but that currently is your greatest problem. By the time Mr Biden is sworn in, it's likely to be 300,000 people dead, unfortunately. It was a missed opportunity from our Prime Minister.
Well, Rex, I don't want to hold up the US Constitution, but no one's been declared the winner except by the media and now by you. You didn't refer to him as Vice President-elect Biden. You referred to him as Mr Biden because he's not the Vice President-elect. Right? Now, that's the brutal reality of what we're dealing with. And I just
I think you're wrong. I think you're wrong, Corey.
I'm sorry. Corey's right.
Yeah,
Corey is right.
It's actually legally correct. And you can go through history, and we're going to, later on, I'm going to come back after the break, after we talk about a couple of other things. We're going to show you how even Joe Biden agrees with what I've just said. And so we'll have another stoush about that then. Matt Canavan, is Joe Biden the president-elect or just the presumptive president-elect?
No, I've referred to him as the president-elect, and the reason for that, Corey, is, look, you've got two options here, right? You can either call him the president-elect or not. And I think right now, if elected officials from Australia were to use a different term than is most commonly used in the US, right, it would create incidents. Not for me to, as a senator for Australia, to comment on what should happen in the US, but I also agree with the thrust of what you're saying, that, of course, officially, the president is not inaugurated till the January the 20th, and there's a process with the Electoral College next month. And Donald Trump is well within his rights to take these matters to courts, just as we do here in Australia. But normally here in this country, I'll draw in a parallel here. In this country, if a vote is disputed, and I'll put my hand up, I was in that spot. I had to go to the High Court over Section 44. I was still a senator. I still could carry out my duties while the dispute was heard by the court. And likewise here, I think the default is a Joe Biden presidency, and it's up to the Republicans and Donald Trump to prove otherwise here. I absolutely agree.
What's interesting though, Matt, hang on. What's interesting though is it was only a week ago when the media was saying Donald Trump should concede and everyone said he should concede, and now most people are saying, well, the process is allowed to continue. There may be legitimate concerns and we should follow them to make sure that this election is free and fair. The thing has changed.
I agree. I never said that Trump should. Yep, I agree with you on that. And I think there are a lot of irregularities, and it'll be the best for democracy for them to be heard properly through the court process. One thing that I know the Prime Minister had to say that the American democracy is strong, but I'm very concerned. There's a poll out today that 80% of Republicans don't think the elections were fair. That's something like 50 or 60 million people in the United States then who have that view. If you again take the parallel, I don't want to comment too much about another country's system, but if here one of our major parties was saying they didn't have scrutineers in the room, there was a biased process, there would be a real crisis. There would be a real problem. And aren't we lucky that we don't have that? We have very close elections,
Matt,
but we have a process which is independent and trusted by both sides of politics. Unfortunately, they don't have that right now in the United States.
Matt, I can tell you...
I'll go to you quickly.
When I was a young Liberal, I was involved in a scrutiny of a particular election, and we had to call the police. We had to follow the ballot box to the police station so it could be locked up for the cunt. There's a lot of vigilance that goes on in
I agree
voting.
with that. Yeah, but we are lucky that we've got an independent electoral commissioner that usually, I agree with you, there's a lot of tension in scrutineering outcomes, but we haven't got to the sort of position the US is in right now, I don't think, here.
Yeah, but okay. But the shameful thing is, we've got to go to a break in a second, but the shameful thing is that those who are seeking to uphold the processes, the appropriate processes, are the ones that have been smashed by mainstream media. I no longer know what information I can rely on because people are just flat out telling lies. Anyway.